to Jake Jackets. Gear up to fire the cannon and hit the ice with your host, Jay Ashdown and Jake Gehringer.
I did add something for the end here too, because there's something going on tonight.
Oh yeah, they didn't fucking promote it.
Yeah, exactly. Because
I was listening to Kipper and Bourne, and Kipper brought it up, and I was like, thank God he did. I didn't fucking know.
yeah, I know. Like the NHL is so good at promoting anything.
Oh my God,
right?
their marketing, whoever, everyone's fired. You're fired.
Seriously.
Good Lord.
Oh my God. We'll talk about it at the end, but
Ugh.
like, yeah, the NHL Awards are apparently tonight. So
I had no idea. I had no idea until today, like at like 11.
well, we were talking about this too. We've been talking about this when nominees come out, and we're like, "When's the show?"
Well, and it usually happens after the season, so I just naturally assumed like that it would happen at just. But then again, it makes sense since that there's such a short timeline because you get the Cup Final coming on, and then like in less than 3 weeks we got the draft.
Right.
So like I get that there's not like a lot of time, but like I don't know, maybe tell people like, hey, heads up, you know, the award show. I remember like when I was like a decade ago, like 11 years ago was the first one that I watched when
right.
Remember Dan Bylsma won Jack Adams, and you know just watching
Dan Bylsma, former Falcon Dan Bylsma.
Yeah. But just watching the award show, like it was something that like I went out of my way to watch for a few years, and now I just don't. They just don't promote it. I never know what it is. Like I don't know. They do a terrible job with it.
The only thing that I remember about it is that Keenan's hosting it again.
Keenan's hilarious. So
Keenan Thompson is great.
Yeah.
But anyway, to start off, we got ourselves a series, eh?
Yeah, and I'm actually going to give myself a little bit of credit here and pat myself on the back because
go ahead, go right ahead.
They got smoked in game 2, 7-0.
Right.
And I didn't waver for a second that I thought Tampa was going to win the series.
Well, no.
And that's not to say that just because they won game 3 that they're going to win. They could lose in 5.
We talked about this Saturday. Colorado's just a better team than what they've faced in previous finals.
But and that is true. That's 100% true. And I remember, you know, Colorado goes up 2-0, and I see a bunch of people being like, yeah, like I mentioned, like, hey, like they just overcame a 2-0 deficit last series, and people were like, well, this isn't the Rangers. Well, yeah, but you know what? At the same token, these aren't the Predators,
right? Exactly.
These aren't the Blues. These aren't the Oilers. So like, it works both ways. These are both two really good teams. We've got a really good Cup Final in our hand. Now, granted, it sucked that 2 of the games so far have been blowouts. One of them was a great game, which was game 1. Hopefully we see more of that, but I'm not backing down. Even if they lose game 4, I believe Tampa's going to win this in 7. You know, I'm never going to lose faith in that team until they are 110% officially eliminated.
Until they're out. Yeah.
I'm never going to count them out.
I mean, someone that is out more or less, couple of key guys for Tampa, actually. Because Kucherov's now doubtful for game 4, and Point's also doubtful.
I doubt. Okay. I doubt.
Uh-huh.
I don't think Point's going to play game 4. I think Kucherov will.
I mean, we'll see. There's only one way to find out. I really
don't think that both those guys are missing game 4.
It's crazy how we have back-to-back blowouts, though, and now you're like, Tampa has that depth. We've seen it.
Mm-hmm. And this is what Tampa does. We talked about this last series. This is what dominance is. It's not going out and beating teams, 6-2 like they just did every given night. No, It's losing 2 straight games, and it doesn't matter. We got this. They don't waver. They really don't. They find ways to win. And no matter what the circumstance is, they find a way when it matters most. And that's ultimately they're the best team in the league at that. They're the best team in the league at a lot of things. But that's the one that they're better than anybody in the league at.
They're the best team in the league, like at so many things since a certain little birdie did something.
Yeah. I'll say the interesting thing here, and this is the edge that Tampa has over Colorado, is just in terms of media perception. And what I mean by that is Andrei Vasilevsky gets lit up in game 2.
Right.
It wasn't bad, but he wasn't great in game 1.
So many fans were calling for Brian Elliott, and that concerned the hell out of me.
I didn't see anybody.
I mean, the way that people were reacting.
My point is that people weren't reacting that way. I didn't see a single soul saying you should start Brian Elliott for game 3.
I saw a few that were at least like, maybe try Elliott.
Those are either trolls or the biggest idiots on the planet. I mean, the difference between the two teams is Andrei Vasilevsky gets lit up in game 2, and there's no doubt about it who's starting game 3. It was never going to be Brian Elliott. And last night we see Kemper get lit up. And the conversation today is, does he start game 4?
Right. There, I did see that today.
And I think that there's actually legitimate argument towards both sides. I think there's an argument for starting Kemper. I think there's an argument for starting Francouz.
Well, yeah. I mean, look at how they've both performed through this run. Pavel's been perfect record-wise. Record-wise,
yeah. Both guys give you a chance to win on just about any given night, I think. But the edge that Tampa's had all series long, even though he hasn't been great this series so far, has been that Vassy's your guy. And just about any series you play in, you're going to have the edge goaltending-wise. The only one that I've seen them in the last few years not have an edge goaltending-wise was maybe the Rangers series. But they still won it because they're so much better than the Rangers in a lot of different areas.
I mean, unless Vassy gets hurt and...
Yeah, well, and if Vassy gets hurt, you're kind of fucked. And that's nothing against Brian Elliott, but the guy's 37, 38 years old.
Yeah.
And it's it's such a steep drop-off. And it's not to say that you can't win games with Brian Elliott. Brian Elliott's won a lot of games in the National Hockey League.
Oh, yeah.
But it's the drop-off of arguably best goalie, if not definite top 2 goaltender, to solid backup.
Solid backup who's on the back 9 of his career, who honestly hasn't had... What was his most recent decent season? Was it not just a couple of years ago where it was a first time with a 915 in at least 3-4 years? It was his first season above 910 since he was in Philly. Or no, wait, since he was in St. Louis.
I'd have to look that up. I'll look it up right now for you just to give you the stats, but it's interesting because
he's really there are guys that really
long time. He's been in this league since 2007.
Yeah.
He's had a pretty good career, but looking back at save percentage,
his St. Louis heyday was something else.
So, yeah, he had a 940 save percentage, 11-12, which was they hit Halak one.
Right, yeah. The Halak year.
You've also got, he had a 930 his last season in St. Louis before signing in Calgary. He had a 910 there, was pretty solid, but he had the rough playoffs, so they were like, nope, that's it, we're done.
Okay.
Goes to Philly, 909, 907, 899. 889, 912.
Ooh, yeah.
912 this past season was pretty solid, but then again, he played.
But that was his first season above a 910 since St. Louis.
And he started 17 games, and he played in 19. So it's a small sample size. So yeah, he's a backup. That's what he is. He was a really good goalie in his prime. He's a backup now. There's nothing wrong with Brian Elliott. It's just that it's hard to go from Andrei Vasilevsky to any backup goaltender. It's hard to go from Andrei Vasilevsky to any starter in the league.
Honestly, unless you're Igor Shesterkin, yeah.
Yeah.
there's
name
no
a good goalie. It's a drop off from Andrei Vasilevsky.
There's no other comparable than literally the Eastern Conference Final was the best we've seen.
Yeah, take Darcy Kemper for example. I think Darcy Kemper's a pretty damn good goalie.
Darcy's definitely still a step down from either of those two.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely. And that's not a knock on Darcy Kemper. It's just how good they are.
It's just these guys are literal aliens.
So that's a situation right now, and I think that's maybe a discussion we should have. What would, if you're Jared Bednar today, what would you do with that? Do you go back to Kemper or do you go to Francouz?
I think if I'm Bedsy, which you got to keep in mind that we had this guy in our system for a long time too.
Yeah, let me tell you, if they had just been able to get through the 15-16 season with Todd Richards, if they didn't fire him at the beginning for going 0-8, they probably would have just let Richards walk and he probably would have been promoted.
Bednar, yeah.
But, obviously they needed to make the immediate change and they went with Torts, which was a good decision on their end.
Oh, yeah.
All things considered. But
okay, to
really
answer your question, if I'm Bednar, I'm making that a game time decision because I really don't know.
Yeah, I would make it. You're definitely making a game time decision because you don't want to give away. You want to show your hand beforehand. You want to give them a little bit of keep them on the edge a little bit about, are we facing Francouz? Are we facing Kemper?
Well, you also got to remember that I'm not an NHL coach. I don't think that far ahead with this kind of thing. I know the game's only like tomorrow and there's time and whatever. I don't see where you can go wrong because the way that the team in front of them plays doesn't really matter who you put in there. You're going to get a solid performance.
There's two reasons I'm going with who I would go with. I'd go with Kemper.
Okay.
And the reason I'd go with Kemper is you traded a lot of assets to get this guy.
Yeah, right.
High-end assets to get this guy. You brought him in for this purpose. He played well. He played pretty damn good in the first 2 games. I'm not sure I would let one bad game define, and not to mention,
right,
the goals. Tampa just ate them up in front of the net. I mean, Stamkos wide open in the slot. Cirelli driving hard to the net. Maroon driving hard to the net. Not a lot of support from the Colorado. And the Palat goal was completely inexcusable. They were coming in 2-on-3, and it's Stamkos was the last guy coming in. And Mika Rin is a hell of a player. But I don't know what the fuck he was doing on that goal.
You cannot hang this loss in net at all.
Yeah, that's not a game I would hold on a goaltender for losing. So I would go back to Kemper and part of the reason is you're up 2-1 in the series. This is not a situation you lose game 4, it's dire, you're fucked. You're down 3-1. No, if you lose, sucks, but you still, it's a best of 3 now, and you got home ice.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay? So I would go with Kemper, and if it doesn't work out, if Kemper has a bad game, then you can make the switch to Francouz. It's hard to make this switch to Francouz now because if he plays bad in game 4, it's hard to go back to Kemper at that point.
Right.
The second reason, and this is, I'm not going to credit myself for this point. This is one that Kipper brought up when I was listening today that I think is incredibly interesting. Is it's hard to convince a guy like Darcy Kemper to come back if you make this switch.
Yeah. We never really talk about the mental side of the game for a goalie, do we?
Mental it's just as important as anything physical. It really is. You look at a guy like Patrick Waugh, maybe the most mentally tough goaltender of all time.
And the infamous trade game just broke him down.
Yeah. That was maybe the only blip he had in his career as far as bad mental toughness game. He's usually good at bouncing back. But what did he do that was great athletically? He wasn't a super athletic guy. His game was positioning. It was positioning,
I think his biggest. I think his biggest. I actually have an answer for you for that question.
What?
I think his biggest athletic feat, his pirouette around Wayne Gretzky.
I would agree with that. Yeah, his stick handling ability might be the most athletic thing he could do.
With John Davidson on the call.
Yeah, which is amazing.
That's so legendary. I love it.
It is. It's one of the greatest videos ever. But like, he's a bigger guy.
Listening to Jay.
Entire game on positioning, and he was
right,
and that's why he was so great. It's not like he's this ungodly athletic Dominic Hasek kind of goaltender. You know,
no, he
had some of the worst positioning you'd ever see from a goalie at all. And it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter.
He would windmill through the net and be fine.
Yeah, he would do the most ridiculous kick you've ever seen in his life, and for some reason, he would hit the puck. That's not who Patrick Roy was. So like,
Henrik was like that for a while.
Yeah,
Henrik was like that for a while. There are a lot of guys that really just ended up having a good mix of both.
I think Igor's a little bit like that, don't you? Igor's not the most athletic guy. I think his biggest attribute is again, he's really big, and his positioning is excellent.
Well, that's why we come back to comparing Igor and Vasilevsky so much.
And that's the edge I give to Vasilevsky is he's really athletic.
They play such a similar way, and yes, Vasi's really athletic. Like this guy's groin is made out of rubber.
Mm-hmm.
But
he does things goalies shouldn't be allowed to do.
No, and yet his positioning is always on par, always on point.
It's very rarely off.
So if you want to pick one or the other in terms of athleticism versus positioning, like Igor's edge is obviously his positioning, but Vasi does have both.
Yes. And I think
Kemper's great. Kemper's a great athlete. His positioning can be off a lot. Francouz's
positioning is athleticism. His athleticism is pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, it's not that
you know what it is with Francouz? It's his decision making.
I would say that in his reflexes. His reflexes aren't the quickest either. You could beat him glove side. You can beat him blocker side. Like, it's not like he's out of position often or not athletic. It's just, as far as like moving laterally, I'd say that's more of a you can pick your spot on him kind of situation. But like I said, there's a reason that you can go with either guy, and it's not a situation where I think you can necessarily go wrong.
Puck playing, decision making is always a thing.
This is let me clarify this. I don't think you can go wrong in terms of. I think both guys are relatively on an even level as far as talent's concerned. Mm-hmm. Where you can go wrong is the mental side of it. I think the mental side of it is why you got to go with Kemper, because Kemper has left games and series for the Avalanche this playoffs solely due to injury. This would be the first time he left a game or if they just go with Francouz the rest of the way, a series due to performance. And I just don't feel right about that. I know that the eye thing might still be lingering. If that's their rationale, if they think that it's starting to affect him again, then I would make the move. But if it's not that big of a deal, and this is just he had one bad game and we're making the switch, I think that's a bad call.
Yeah. Okay. That's totally fair. There were a little bit more controversies going around with Game 3 too. Like there's a lot of shenanigans that happened like towards the end. Game two had Corey Perry doing Corey Perry things.
Yeah.
And Game 3 just had a little bit of everything from everybody. Apparently there's no suspension coming to Taves, which it's fine.
It's the Stanley Cup Final. I doubt that any suspensions were coming.
Yeah, we're close enough to the end anyway, to the point where unless it's super egregious, like whatever Scheifele did to Evans last year.
When you, if it's super egregious, then you do it. But if it's like kind of borderline and like something you'd maybe suspend in the regular season, I've always been perfectly okay with the league saying, hey, this incident happened in game 3 of the Stanley Cup Final. We're suspending this player for 2 games in next year's regular season to start. We're not going to do
carrying things over. And
I think that that's the smarter way to do it. I generally speaking, from like the 3rd round on, I think that's the best way to go about it. Unless, of course, like you said, it's super fucking egregious, like a Mark Scheifele hit on Jake Evans or a Raffi Torres hit, something like that. Like, that's generally speaking how I would handle it. But in this case, I really don't. There's a lot going on both ends. I think they kind of settled it out on the ice themselves. Just move on to game 4.
Yeah. A lot of the depth guys showed up in game 3, but not much else, which, I mean, it's nice to see that the depth is still stepping up and doing what it needs to do, but there needs to be more. Just you need more. Cogliano looked great.
Yeah, he was really, really mixing things up there, which Colorado needs a little bit. Colorado's got some guys on it who can be those big physical presence. I don't think he makes a difference in terms of the outcome of the game, win or lose. Do you know who they needed last night? They needed Kadri.
They did need Nas.
They needed Kadri, especially towards the end of that game. That I can't even express how big of a loss.
Well, Nas, it's funny because like you look at Tampa, you look at the construction of these teams, they're fairly similar. But at the same time, you don't have Tampa has Patrick Maroon, they have Corey Perry, they have, guys, they have Kucherov
is more than willing to
underratedly greasy and
Stamkos did it. We saw in the last round against Alexei Lafreniere.
They have guys that'll come in and mix it up, but in terms of for what they're known for in terms of doing that, I think the biggest name that Colorado really has in that department is Josh Manson.
I would say so as well. And I think that that's another edge that Tampa has is because
Cogs can do it. Nas can do it when he's healthy. We know this. JJ's maybe.
The problem with their situation is in the Stanley Cup Final, you can really ill afford to have any of your defensemen go off the ice for something like that. You need these guys prepared to play their shifts. Like if there's a fight, I don't want my defensemen in the Stanley Cup Final. We only got 6 of them. That means we're gonna have to roll 5 defensemen for the next 5+ minutes.
And that's
so it's hard. You can't really have Manson or Jack Johnson doing it. You need some of the forwards to step in and do it. It's a good thing Cogliano does it. The difference though is I think that McKinnon and Mikko Rantanen they're not soft players. They're willing to kind of stand up for themselves. This is where you really need Kadri, man. This is where you really need them.
Yeah, exactly. Because we know Nathan can do that. We know Nathan can step up in that way if he absolutely has to.
Yes.
But you do not want Nathan McKinnon going into the penalty box for something.
Yeah. Like you don't want him to have to stand up for himself a lot.
You can afford that with a Nazem Kadri, even though like we know how skilled Nas is. We know how much he can chip in on any aspect of the game. But I would much rather have Nas in the box for a situation like that than a Nate McKinnon.
Absolutely.
You just don't want Nas out of the game.
Yeah. And give him credit. He's been fantastic in these playoffs with that.
He's been so much better this playoff than any of the previous runs he's been on. And I mean, he's been just playing his skill game, right? He's been able to play his skill game and calm down.
Yeah. Because I think people sometimes forget he's a really fucking good player.
He's such a great player. And
I'm going to be honest with you.
It's like, again, we talk about his history, right?
Yeah.
The first 2 suspensions were temper tantrums. The third one was just a bad hit.
Yeah.
he's kept his cool when he's been in the lineup.
There are some players in the National Hockey League who are centers who are really, really talented that aren't necessarily 1Cs. You know what I mean? They're not a number one center.
Right.
I've thrown Ryan Johansson into that category. I've thrown Mark Scheifele into that category. Because he doesn't play any fucking defense.
Right.
There's some really good players who I think are really, really good, but they're not number one centers. I think Nazem Kadri is. He's not a number one center on the Avalanche for obvious reasons.
He could be a number one center on most teams.
On most teams. I think he could go to a lot of different teams and be a number one center. He's absolutely got the makeup for it. He's got a great shot. He can create offense on his own. He's a great passer. And he drives hard. He's hard-nosed. He's a pain in the ass to play. He's absolutely a number one center in the National Hockey League.
You know where that would be a decent fit? Dallas.
You know, there was an interesting team brought up for him today.
Was there?
If Nick Backstrom is done.
Right. Oh my God.
TIR. I think Washington makes perfect sense.
That would be Nas and Ovi together. Ooh. Yes. Oh my God. Did we not listen? We said this in a show before.
And I was just kind of joking around. Now that might actually be a realistic possibility.
Oh my God. It's just trade Marshy over there and you're set. Don Sweeney would do it too.
That's an interesting circumstance we're to talk about in a later episode is what's going to happen with Pasternak. I'm interested to see what happens.
Yeah, but anyway, to wrap up,
he's going to get paid this offseason, and it's going to be fucking sweet.
I just want to see him play. I just want to see him finish this cup.
Mm-hmm.
You know, win or lose, I just want to see Nas finish. Right? I just want to see him in the lineup.
Yeah.
But like I said Dallas to transition us out of the playoffs because Pete DeBoer's in Dallas.
Yeah. And you know, Nazem Kadri would be a great fit in Dallas if they didn't spend $10 billion fucking dollars on Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn for no reason.
So they just made it official today.
Mm-hmm.
Pete DeBoer, 4-year deal.
Yeah. And look, he's a good coach. I don't want our perception of Pete DeBoer to be changed because things ended so poorly with Vegas. I think people tend to forget sometimes when we look at some of the higher end coaches, just how ridiculously short the shelf life of coaches in the National Hockey League is.
It's about 2-3 years.
And Pete DeBoer has lasted a long time with a lot of different teams. So he was at 2.5 in Vegas. That's kind of average.
Yeah.
He was in New Jersey forever. He was in San Jose forever.
He was. Yeah. I remember when he first went to Vegas and everybody was like, huh, really?
Because it felt like such a lateral move going from Gallant to Pete DeBoer. But, you know, I don't think he did a bad job in Vegas. He took him to
going from
finals.
The San Jose side of it too, going from DeBoer to Buchner was just kind of like
Yeah, that wasn't even a lateral move. That was just a but I mean, yeah, this guy's been to 2 Cup Finals.
He's a good regular season coach.
Good regular season, has gotten to conference finals many times. Got to 1 with the Devils. Obviously, that was the year they went to the Stanley Cup Final.
Mm-hmm.
Got to the conference final a couple times, I think, with San Jose, as well as a cup final.
And a cup final, yeah.
And then
definitely
he got
some
to
runs.
The conference. Not one of them wasn't a conference. You had the semifinal.
Semis, whatever.
With Vegas, and the only year that he didn't was this past year that they missed the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And to defend Pete DeBoer for a second, there's a lot of injuries on that team. Not a lot of people have. Yeah. Nobody has sympathy for Vegas, but I will defend Pete DeBoer on that because he doesn't control that.
Right.
So I think he's a pretty good coach. And I think that this is a fit in Dallas. They definitely needed to make the change. So it was really good how it worked. They didn't have to fire Bonus. He just stepped down and they could make this change. But I think DeBoer is a better coach, especially in his first year with an organization. He's really good.
It's funny though, too, because that's usually his best season as a coach. Yeah. And then things just drop off from there.
Yeah. It's kind of a slant for a little bit. And then you get to that point. But I mean, for Dallas, you got 2 to 3 years, in my opinion, of good Pete DeBoer coaching to try and make some noise with a group that, frankly, I just don't think has enough. But I think Pete DeBoer for 2 years, maybe even 3, can pull a little bit extra out of them.
Didn't we talk about last show having a spokesplayer for a hire?
Yeah, you got Joe Pavelski right there.
Yeah, we had Cam Atkinson with Torts going to Philly, and you got Pavs in Dallas.
Yeah. And when we talked about when Torts first came to Columbus, he had Brandon Dubinsky there.
Yeah, Doobie, and yeah.
So like I think that makes a lot of sense. To be completely honest with you, they were never going to get Bruce Cassidy. They were never going to get Barry Trotz. I think the best coach available to them was Pete DeBoer.
Let me see. I got this picture here that's got the coaching carousel, as it were, right?
Yeah.
Where is it? There it is. Okay. So we've got Cassidy, who's now in Vegas. We got Torts now in Philly. And we've got Pete DeBoer now in Dallas. The vacancies that are left: Boston, Winnipeg, Detroit. And the coaches that are left, we got Barry Trotz, which is the biggest ticket right now.
Mm-hmm.
And he's in talks with Nashville about like a management role.
That's interesting because I've gotten the sense that part of the negotiation process with Barry Trotz this offseason between several of the teams he's talked to has been wanting to get into management.
Yeah.
After he was done coaching, I think he wanted maybe like another 2, maybe even 3 years of coaching, but then to immediately get the promise of going into management. If he can get that immediately, especially with the place he started with Nashville.
Right.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And Poyle's been there for a long time, and he's done some good work with Nashville. I think it makes sense that this might be the time to just kind of let that be that, the same way that obviously we mentioned Doug Wilson stepped down in San Jose. I think it's time.
Having Barry be like GM in waiting, basically.
Yeah, have him be like an assistant GM, be a consultant for a year, and then at the end of this next season, let him take that role over. Because he's such a smart guy.
Kind of like what's going on with Spets in Toronto.
Yeah.
No, don't get me wrong. Dubas isn't going anywhere for a while, but like.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere for 11 months.
Oh, come on now.
He won't go anywhere if they win a series next year, but if he doesn't, it's chips for him.
I mean, it's good to see Jason, still there too. Like we talked about it a few episodes ago. But yeah. Barry in management would be very interesting. I still want to see him.
I think it would be very interesting.
I still want to see him behind the bench somewhere for a while.
I'm really sorry for that. That was bad.
That one was wow. Speaking of chips, woo!
Ugh, that was very bad of me.
Oh, come on now, stop. Okay,
someone right. Just shut this show off because of that, and I don't blame them.
Yeah, that's Christian levels. Wow. Shout out to you, buddy.
There's 2 coaches in that list
so, here
that are just not going to coach again, in my opinion.
We got vacancies in Detroit and Winnipeg and Boston. Barry, we'll see what happens with Barry Trotz. Cassidy is in Vegas. Alain Vigneault is out there.
Yeah, no. And look, I'm not saying that he can't coach again in the National Hockey League. I just don't think this year.
I don't see him as a head coach.
I see him as an interim. I see him as a guy who replaces someone mid-season.
Maybe, yeah.
And I think it's kind of, especially with the health problems. I just don't see Claude Julien coaching again.
He's one of the older candidates.
Yeah. I'm fairly confident that David Quinn's going to be the coach in Boston.
Yeah.
That seems to be the direction that they're going to go.
I still think it's hilarious that he's not even in this
He's not even
graphic.
He's
not even in this graphic. Because he's just, yeah.
Tockett's interesting.
Tockett's interesting, especially coming off of TV like Torts did.
Mm-hmm. I think he's a good coach, man. I mean, he did not have a good roster.
I can see Tocchet in Detroit.
I could too. Honestly, I think Detroit, doesn't matter to me which one they go. Either Tocchet or Paul Maurice, I think, makes a lot of sense in Detroit.
Paul Maurice would be fun.
Paul Maurice is a good coach, and he's a good man. I really have a lot of appreciation for what he did stepping away. On his own and just
his reasoning. His reasoning being feeling it out.
He was just like, I've gotten the most out of this team that I'm going to get out of them. They need a new voice. I'm going to make this decision myself. I have a hell of a lot of respect for him for that. And he's a really good coach. So I think for a young team like Detroit, I think that's a perfect fit. But I'm also not against the idea of them going with a guy like Rick Tocchet either.
I think Tocchet's going to follow wherever Phil Kessel goes.
Maybe Kessel's a Red Wing.
Maybe he could go back to Boston too, because that's another free agent that's really interesting that we could talk about later.
Okay, if we're just going to go back to a team, like if he's going to sign cheap and go back anywhere, he should heavily consider going back to Toronto.
He honestly could.
Like if you're going to sign like a 1-year league min deal, which I don't think he's going to do. I think he's going to get a pretty decent amount of money. But if you're gonna say screw the money, I've made a lot of it. I want a chance to win. A return to Toronto would be kind of fun.
Return to Toronto for Kessel would be interesting, right?
And especially since we've been talking about, they need to add guys who've won Stanley Cups to that locker room. He's won 2. He learned how to win in Pittsburgh.
he literally not long after he left Toronto, he started winning. It's like, of course, but man. Anyway, the carousel is really just kind of going, but it's not as much of a hot stove as it could be right now.
Yeah. I think there's some interesting
we got time.
Yeah.
We got time because even free agency is not until, another couple of weeks. But DeBoer. What, didn't I call him a roach coach?
Which I thought was funny. But I do think he's a good coach. My issue with Dallas isn't with Pete DeBoer as the coach.
It's Jim Nill as general manager.
Yeah, it really is. And to me, it's got a similar feel to Chuck Fletcher a little bit of trying to get a guy who's a really good immediate impact coach to prevent himself from getting fired.
Right.
And I get it, because like I said multiple times on this show, it's the truth. The goal of a general manager of the National Hockey League, the job of a GM is not to win a cup, it's to stay employed. Yeah. Cups help. They help a lot, but it's to stay employed. And that's what Jim Nill's doing right now. And Chuck Fletcher too. They're both trying to keep their jobs.
I'm trying to think of how to compare the conversation of GMs that have their guy. Dubas and Keefe, we know are
yes,
tied at the hip.
Yes,
right?
That's his guy.
Keefe's always been Kyle's guy.
Mm-hmm.
I think the same thing, or at least a similar situation with Yarmo and Lars.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. There's
they
a
were,
lot up there. Lars has been a part of this organization longer than Yarmo has.
Yeah,
but Yarmo came in and really liked the guy and saw him grow from Springfield Falcons head coach to assistant coach under John Tortorella for a long time in Columbus to now head coach. That's the decision that he made.
Yes.
So I would definitely, Brad Larsen's definitely a Yarmo guy.
Yeah. So you have situations like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have situations like what's going on in Dallas, like what could go on with Boston. Like, does Don Sweeney even have a guy? We don't know.
Don Sweeney's another guy who's fighting for his job. I genuinely believe that Cassidy was his guy, but he fired him because he wasn't Neely's guy. He wasn't Jeremy Jacobs' guy. And I think he's going to end up hiring Jeremy Jacobs and Cam Neely's guy, which is going to be David Quinn. I'm not sure there's really a connection between Don Sweeney and David Quinn. The only connection David Quinn has to the Boston Bruins is his connection to the Boston area.
Right.
So like, I just don't see how it works. And I'm not a big Don Sweeney guy. I've seen his drafting. I've seen some. I'm just
2015.
But like, I actually do feel a little bit because I do genuinely believe that firing Cassidy was not his call.
Yeah, it's still a weird call, just in general, right?
Yeah, it is. It's hard to believe that even if he's not your guy, it's hard to believe that any president or owner of a team could look at a guy with a 660 win percentage with a
650 minimum.
Yeah. See, it was like that damn good for an organization for a long time and say he's not the guy. But that's their call and not mine.
We'll see how DeBoer does in Dallas. We'll see how long Nil lasts.
Yeah.
With DeBoer there. I don't
think he's got much longer. Because they got some bad contracts in Dallas, man. They really do.
Well, Radulov is coming out.
Radulov's coming off, but I mean, Fox is still making a hell of a lot of money for what he does. Jamie Benn's contract's abysmal.
Jamie and Tyler are the biggest ones.
Yeah. And
then you got guys you got to pay.
Well, they're not going to bring Klingberg back. Klingberg's not coming back.
It sounds like that relationship's done.
That relationship's damaged. And their defense is pretty weak. And he was never good defensively, but he still ate a lot of minutes. It was good offensively. He brought a lot of skill to their game.
Pavs is still there for a little bit.
Yeah, and I love Miro Heiskanen, but who else is notable on that Dallas defense?
Suter.
Esa Lindell. I like Lindell, but Suter's not a great contract because of the length. Yanni Hakanpää's
a good 5'6".
He's a solid third, paired guy who's, no offense, but pretty solid defensively. But other than that, they gotta pray hard that Thomas Harley is ready to go.
Harley, I'm interested to see. I want to see more from Tufte too. I want to see him get a shot.
Yeah, but even that, because now that Radulov's gone, that should give him. You would think theoretically it should give him a spot, but I'm interested to see what happens with Gurianov.
Dennis too, yeah. So Dennis is on the 1-year deal, and then just to finish up like where to allocate the money, right? And finally try to get away from this because we've been talking about it for as long as we have. Otter and Jason.
Yes.
Her and Jason Robertson.
Because I'm pretty sure that they got a deal done with well, now his name just evaded me. Oh, I can see his beautiful face.
There's Robbie.
Rope Hintz. They got the deal
yeah.
done with Rope Hintz. I'm pretty sure. Right? So Hintz is a good piece. Robertson's a great piece. Otter's a great piece. Haskin is a great piece.
You gotta pay.
They're completely hamstrung by those fucking Ben and Sagan contracts.
You gotta. How much is Robo worth? He's gonna be paid big star money. We know this.
Mm-hmm.
And then how much do you trust Otter enough to be your guy going forward? I would hope so.
Absolutely.
And then how much is that?
They are in a situation, in my opinion, they got to go bridge deal for these guys in the hopes that we can go bridge deal for 3 years on these guys, 2-3 years. Okay. And by the time that they're available to be paid again, we'll give them the money. We will pay outright
through the nose,
because at that point we will be in a position where it's stomachable for us to buy out Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin.
I don't even know if, God, the lengths of those contracts for Jamie.
I'm pretty sure at this point Jamie Benn's got another 3 years on his deal.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go 2 years, you just have to buy out the last year. By the time that you got to pay these guys.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not too bad. Sagan's deal is, I think, a little longer. I think there's maybe 4 years left on it, 4 or 5 years left on that.
Yeah, Tyler's lengthy.
That's what she said.
Tyler's got some time. Man, seriously, how much are these kids worth? They're worth a lot.
Sagan's got another 5 years on his deal.
Oh. And
now the interesting thing for him is his deal was very, very front loaded as far as his signing bonus. So his contract was 8 years, $78.8 million. His signing bonus was $55 million.
Oh.
So this year, signing bonus $5 million. In incentive $8 million. Next year, like a year after that, 2.9 signing bonus, 5.5. So his incentives kind of stay the same, but go down after next year, and his signing bonus start to go down. So it's an easier deal to trade down the line if you have to. My question is, what is does he have a no movement clause? I think is the big one.
Tyler's a cog in the wheel. Is he not? Because just think about that lineup, right? Yeah. Hintz, Pavelski, literally, where do you put Tyler? Is it Gurianov, Sagan, Ben on your third line? Because Pavelski and Robertson are your top two centers.
They've been playing Pavelski on the wing.
Have they? Okay.
Yeah. So obviously, I agree. I think Pavelski works better as a center. So that's the issue that they're put in is you're not going to take Pavelski out of the top six, obviously.
No.
So your best position is to play him on the wing because Sagan's a center. He doesn't play wing. Pavelski can do both.
Right.
But Pavelski works better as a center, and that's you're taking a little bit of his effectiveness away from him because you have to accommodate Tyler Seguin, who's making almost $10 fucking million.
And we know Hintz can play wing, so he can play alongside Robertson.
Yes, he can play on the left side if need be, but I like you in a perfect world, man. You'd love to have Robertson and Hintz on your top line,
mm-hmm.
or maybe even go with Robertson and Pavelski on the top line with any other winger you want, but God,
maybe all three, maybe load it up and go all three. If you go Hintz, Robertson, Pavelski on your first line.
Yeah, that's something they could do too.
And then you can have
Pavelski in the center or Hintz in the center. It doesn't really matter.
And then you can have Tyler.
You're best served to do Robertson, Hintz, Pavelski.
Okay.
And then You can put Sagan on your second line with Ben and Garyanov.
Right.
But
and then 3 and 4 are just kind of whatever. But
they got to give a legitimate opportunity here for Tufte.
Yeah, they got to give Tufte a shot. And it always comes back to these two guys, where it's literally, I don't know how to get out of this conversation.
For so long, they were the backbone of the team.
And now they're just
the backbone of the team was Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn, and now they're the anchor.
Yeah,
that's holding them back. And it's not necessarily that they're not effective players. Mm-hmm. It's just the cap hit. If Ben was making 5.5, if Seguin was making 6.5, in a perfect world, it wouldn't be a big deal.
It'd be stomachable to
Yeah, you could absolutely get away with that. They're making almost $10 million each against the cap.
And they're no Connor and Leon anymore.
Good Lord. And to be fair to Connor and Leon, they were never Connor and Leon, but still, like, they were pretty damn good. You know?
They're just not 10 million each good anymore.
Yeah. And I'd make an argument that Ben's kind of not even 5 at this point.
I mean, he's also, he's getting into his back 9.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the reason that he's seeing this decline.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing that he can do about it. It's not like
it's just
being like, your Ben's a piece of shit. It's athletes. This is how they age. This is what happens. And this is the price of doing business. When you give a long-term contract like that, you do that expecting the first half is going to be what we expect from the player, and then the back half is going to get rough. Mm-hmm. But we're okay with the back half so long as we get a good first half. And the problem is Dallas didn't win in the first half,
right?
When they had a shot to, especially in the bubble season 2020.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't get a cup out of it, and now they're paying for sins of the past, and they didn't reap the rewards of it.
In a time where we're seeing a lot of Southern teams, starting to win.
Florida was great this year. Tampa is in the Cup Final again. Carolina, really good.
Colorado's back, which, I mean, Colorado's known for hockey, but again, Southern team.
Nashville
Nashville had a run.
Last, 3 seasons, but for really the last decade, they've been a very consistent team.
Vegas out of the blue.
Mm-hmm.
California's starting to rebuild back up.
Yeah, we witnessed the Kings win 2 cups. We saw the Sharks consistently be great. They never won a cup, but they were consistently really, really good.
And the Ducks are coming back slowly but surely.
But I mean, but again, if we're talking about last century, last century
is a long time.
Last decade, we saw them from 2011 to 2017. They were pretty damn good. Hockey's working in the South.
Dallas is the odd man out right now. Dallas, and
I'd say Arizona's the odd man out. But
in terms of just where expectations are, we're expecting Dallas to still be competitive.
Let me tell you,
they're just not.
An eerie amount of similarities between Dallas and the team they just lost to in the first round.
Ooh.
They're the Texas Flames as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, it's more than just geography and horses.
To me, it's every year we expect anything from Dallas or Calgary, they shit the bed. They're best when we don't have expectations. Did you expect them to really do anything in the 2019-20 season when they got to the Cup Final?
I mean, that one was weird just in terms of overall circumstances, but at the same time, no. They
fired their coach mid-season.
Yeah.
Because of alcohol-related issues.
Right. Yeah. I forgot that's why Montgomery got let go.
Yeah. And it was a really, really weird season for them. They got to the Cup Final.
Yeah.
expected them to make the playoffs last year. They're coming off this great season. They're in the finals. They can make the play, and then they miss the playoffs.
Right.
And then our expectations dip, and then they make the playoffs again. Like, are you sensing a pattern here?
All they need is Daryl Sutter.
Yeah, they got bargain bin Daryl Sutter.
Oh man, yeah. Good luck to Dallas, I guess. Good luck to Pete, because man, this guy needs.
I think he's going to win some games in Dallas. I think he'll make the playoffs with the team.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they got a shot at the cup, and I don't think that's Pete DeBoer's fault. I think it's entirely on Jim Nill.
Cup final in their first year, and that's going to be it, like it always is with Pete DeBoer.
I would be surprised if they were in the cup final next year, but I've seen crazy things. They made it to the cup final in 2020.
Yeah. We're going to take a hard turn here.
Yeah. Hard turn. I know what this is.
We haven't talked about any of these kind of incidents for a while, thank God.
Yeah, thank God. You know, we're on our personal streak of not having to talk about it in like a couple months, which is sad. That's the bar.
Right. Article from The Athletic. That's I mean, this is an update on a story that's been brewing for a couple of months now.
Who is leading the charge on this story, Jake?
I haven't gotten to read much, so would you take the reins, please?
Okay. I know this might surprise you, but Katie Strang.
Whoa!
They're doing great work again. Doing great work again. She's phenomenal. I got to listen. She did an interview with Kipper on their latest episode, which was interesting to listen to.
Let me read this headline, this quote headline. Yes. We haven't learned a damn thing.
Yes. That is essentially where we're at right now. There's still a lot of uncertainty here because we don't know who the 8 players are. We don't know who the victim is.
All we know is
statements made that people who are dealing directly with it said that it wasn't a cover-up.
All we know is this is former World Juniors.
Mm-hmm.
This is all around Hockey Canada.
Mm-hmm.
It's more than just the international juniors too. It's like through junior leagues.
Yes. So I don't know where we go from here with this. And that's going to be up to the masters of uncovering shit and Katie Strang and Rick Westhead.
Yeah.
Which they will do because they're incredible.
And they're not going to get answers from anybody because nobody wants to talk to them because of how they handled the Blackhawks.
Mm-hmm. And that's the other thing is it's hard to get answers because there's nothing stopping from players from rejecting questioning.
And so the questioning officially started yesterday.
And this is an interesting question that Kipper posed that I like is there any punishment that could be assessed to someone who doesn't cooperate, who just says, I'm not going to answer? And Katie read a lot of different rules within the NHLPA and talked to some of the people in the PA specifically. And she said, the answer to that question is nobody knows.
Really? Because
again, we don't know a damn thing. We didn't learn anything.
They were questioned yesterday,
mm-hmm.
and they do what hockey men do, which is give non-answers.
Yes. I don't know how long this process is going to take. I'm confident that they're going to get the answers eventually, but
Hockey Canada says they don't know who the players are.
Yes.
They still don't know the identities of the players mm-hmm. involved.
Yes.
They recommended that everybody participates.
They need to mandate it.
The wording in this article is recommendation.
Yeah.
It's not what needs to happen. And it's it's this huge story because of what it is, but it's also not as big because it just keeps happening.
Yeah.
It all comes down to conduct and accountability. It came down to that with the Akeem Aliu stuff. It came down to that with the Marner and Babcock stuff. It came down to that with the Logan Mailloux stuff, with the Evander Kane stuff. There's no accountability.
Never.
With the
hockey is not a sport of moral absolutism by any means. They're just
hockey's for everyone, my ass.
Yeah. It's like that with all sports, you know. It's not just a hockey problem. Hockey's got it
the worst
sports, but you know, I see Deshaun Watson settling 24 fucking cases today, and it's like, oh my god, like,
right.
It's not just a hockey problem, but like, you know, it's not. We're not here to compare, you know, sports and how bad they are at their shit. Like, they should just be better. Football needs to be better. Baseball needs to be better. Basketball needs to be better. Hockey needs to be better.
Yeah, just.
I don't watch international soccer. I'd imagine that they need to be better.
Oh, I've seen a few stories. I don't watch it either, but I've seen people sharing stories.
It's not. It's also not just sports. It's major corporations. This is a problem that goes around in a lot of different businesses.
Yeah,
a lot of different businesses. It needs to fucking change. We all need to change as a people. Really.
We got to be accountable. We need to be better people and call others out when we see shit like this.
Yeah.
And own up to it when we're caught.
Yeah.
Really, that's what it is. And I know change is a slow thing.
It's an incredibly, incredibly slow process, but we need to see some sort of progress. We're just not seeing it.
We haven't in over a decade. And I mean, this all comes back to when the Blackhawks thing broke.
We haven't in over a decade. And the scary thing is we're only going back a decade.
Yeah. Who's to say, you know,
who's to say it got better from 1960 to 2010?
Exactly. There are so many incidences from like those days that were, you know, context at the time were par for the course, right?
Yeah.
At the time, par for the course because people didn't know better.
Yeah, and that comes with with learning.
And I hate saying that people didn't know better, but
we're more educated today than obviously we were back then. And it doesn't mean that things that were happening back then are okay. It just means that that's just, it's how it is. It shouldn't have been that way, but it's just how it was. And as we get more educated and progress things, we understand the standard we should hold ourselves to.
Right.
And the problem is if you don't hold people accountable, they're never going to live to that standard.
The bar for accountability is right here.
Yeah.
It's really like in 2022, the bar for accountability is the same as it was in like 1992.
Yeah.
We
just need to, and it's not going to happen immediately, but if we can just, you know, steadily go up.
Can we just step over the limbo bars on the floor, people?
Yeah. Someone, for the love of God, just bend over and pick it up an inch or two or three. Just we just got to raise it, you know?
Or we either have to raise it or the people that, you know, are, you know, falling on the ends of these things need to step over it for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
Step over the bar first. And then let's raise the, like, obviously we should raise it as they're crossing.
Yeah.
catch them while they're down. And all we can do is bring attention to it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, all we can do is bring attention to it.
Yeah.
It's the leagues and the organizations that have to make these changes, and they just won't.
Yeah.
They just won't. I hate to be cynical about this, but I don't have faith in it.
I have a little faith, and it's not in terms of the morality, it's the PR. It's not that people are going to change for the better because they believe in making that change.
Ugh.
I think there's going to be some changes because people understand now that the spotlight's getting bigger and bigger, and people are going to hold them accountable.
Mm-hmm.
So they need to hold themselves accountable to increase how positively they're viewed in the public eye.
Increase
their public perception needs to improve. That's the only reason I have any faith.
And again, like the cynic in me is just saying they're not going to do it. Right?
Yeah.
Even for those reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And that sucks as a fan.
It does, and it sucks not having any faith in something like that.
We know there are good people in these organizations in the sport.
Of course, yeah. It's not to say everybody in hockey is bad. If everybody in hockey was bad, we wouldn't watch.
Exactly.
Know?
We watch it for stories like Nadia and Red and those kinds of stories, right?
Yeah.
And I'm bringing up Nadia and Red for later, but
right.
Fun little tidbit. But yeah, this has to change. This has to get better, and we're gonna belabor the point because it needs to be.
Yep.
Until the leagues actually make a change, all we can do as media people, as fans, as again, we're just two schmucks with a podcast. Come on.
Yeah, that's all we are.
We're just like, yeah. And we're talking about it because this is a sport we love, and this is something that needs to be addressed. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Change has to start.
Yeah, it has to start immediately.
Yeah. Getting out of that, Columbus made another minor signing, which this one I really like.
Yeah. I like it too. Depth.
Brendan Gaunce, another 2 years in the org. It's a 2-way deal.
They're keeping a familiar face around.
He looked so much better than we thought he was going to when he was up.
Yeah.
He looked lights out.
He was a first-round pick for a reason. Didn't develop the way I think people had hoped, but the skill's still there, and we saw it in a very limited role. And
I mean, he looked
okay with him being in that role.
In a fourth-line role, he looked like a first-round pick.
Yeah,
is that not accurate? Like,
I liked what I saw from his game. His speed was evident. There's a little bit of skill to it.
What's funny is
pretty decent shot. Like, he's nothing special, but he's got some value to him.
He looked the best when literally the entire team was out.
Yeah.
So we had like Gaunce and Berube starting.
Yeah.
That was probably my favorite moment, was Gaunce's goal set up by Berube.
Yeah. What was that game?
That was a Devils game.
Oh, that was a Devils game.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that was Gaunce from Berube. It was like Gaunce from Boki and Berube, because somehow Boquist was in the lineup.
BFF.
BFF Boki. But yeah, good to see Gaunce back. I'm excited. We know we're locking up guys that we know will stick around, at least in the short term.
Yeah.
They're not going to cost a lot of money, which is nice because we need to save the money for one guy.
Right. Yeah.
And there's still no talks as far as we know.
As much money as we can for Nick Blankenberg.
There's still no talks between Patrick and Jarmo that I know of.
I'm not concerned about it.
I'm not getting worried. I just hope this doesn't really turn into like, a Willie or a Marner kind of thing where it just drags and drags and drags, right?
I don't think they'll allow it to get to that point.
I hope not. I don't see it, but at the same time, there's just a little part of me that's kind of worried.
It's the
perception because of when those contracts, it always comes back. Yeah. The way that those contracts went down, the way that Quinn and Pettersson went down.
Yeah. Well, it's also just the general fear. You don't want to get to that point as a fan. So that's always the
right.
back of mind.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm not worried.
No, I do hope that it's at least a decent long-term deal.
Yeah.
Like if you go the full term 8, hell, but I would be happy with like what, 5 to 7.
Yeah.
5 to 7 would be nice.
Yeah.
Years wise. Right?
No, millions.
He's immortal. We know this. He's a cyborg. Oh man. Speaking of guys that are staying, Woodcroft signed 3 years with Edmonton, which is nice. Again, yeah. They got their guy.
Good deal. Good coach. Like the fit.
I do like the fit.
I think that it's a 3-year deal. I think he's going to be in Edmonton longer than 3 years.
Yeah, this is like, I feel like this is very similar to Berube's first extension.
Yeah. Didn't feel like it was going to be like a super long one, but obviously he got the extra extension.
Yeah.
When he did well coaching them, because there's some coaches who are just really good at their jobs in an interim role that you feel like, oh, this isn't an interim coach. Like, this is a guy you can give a contract to after the season, and they're going to be the coach for a decent amount of time. I got that sense with Berube.
Marty St. Louis. We'll see what happens with that. But
I had that sense with Marty St. Louis, and I have that sense with Woodcroft. So I think that works well for them. Their question right now no longer is about coach. Now it's about goaltending,
backup goaltending, and defense, like it always is.
And they also got an Evander Kane issue too.
Yeah, that's a weird one. That's a weird one because he fit. As a player, he fit.
Yeah.
As a person, do you want that around still?
And it's not even just as a person, but it's track record. And do I want to give a long-term deal to that?
Yeah.
Because let's be real for a second. Edmonton doesn't give a fuck about Evander Kane's past. They don't give a fuck about what he's done as a person.
I mean, that's
all they care about is, can we rely on him in a long-term deal?
Ken Holland, I'm sure when, they were negotiating, they were like, we're going to put this away and you're going to play. Right?
Yeah.
We're going to put all your shit aside and you're going to go out there and you're going to play for us.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that was the biggest part of the negotiation. And I'm sure that would be for this one. As long as he's able to not stir up anything new. I can.
That is one of the biggest ifs.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's not many bigger ifs this offseason than, can Evander Kane Not be a dipshit.
Right. Yeah.
Or an asshole. So like, yeah, I don't know. That's the decision that they got to make, because if they keep him long term, that's a risk. If you lose him for nothing,
that's a risk.
It's more than just a risk. It's a, how the fuck do you replace that? I like Yamamoto, but you're going to be dealing Puljujärvi this offseason. You better hope when you deal Puljujärvi that you can get some sort of impact player.
Yeah, Hyman looked good, and Zach fits. Zach fits. Yamo fits. Obviously, Puljujärvi. Who knows what you're gonna do with that? Like, where does he go? Because the experiment's gone long enough with Yessi, I think. Right?
You know who I think Edmonton's gonna go after if they don't keep Evander Kane? Josh Anderson.
Ooh,
because they like Evander Kane because he's a big body, physical guy who can score goals.
Josh
not a fan of the contract, but Josh Anderson, like, you don't need him to be a playmaker. He's not a good passer, but if your goal is just to have him be a goal scorer and you want to play him with Leon and Connor, like, I mean,
you're not wrong. If they can find a way to stomach the contract.
Yeah, that would be the biggest thing. Because if you're going to make a Josh Anderson deal, it would probably be for Puljujärvi. Which I think would make sense for both sides. Granted, if Evander Kane's not coming back.
Yeah, that's if Evander doesn't come back. And time will tell.
And that's the one thing. Like, the contract's not great, and he's not a great passer. There's a lot of flaws in this game. But the one thing you can give Josh Anderson credit is he's not a piece of shit.
Because it's funny, we're in that era. We're in that part of the season where it's like the Cup Final is winding down, more or less. The Cup Final's happening. We'll have like a week of kind of nothing. And then we're going to pick up with the draft, and we're going to pick up with free agency and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Hopefully that actually gives us content, and we'll be shortening shows a little bit. We'll be doing maybe only one a week at that point, but we'll see about that, because we're just in this weird part of the season now.
Yeah.
Where it's like news comes slowly, but it comes in huge chunks.
Yeah. And the good thing for that is, like, I kind of love it when there's slower news days, because we get to really dive deep. Yeah, because I feel like we spent a good chunk on Pete DeBoer to Dallas, and generally speaking, most of the time we try and make that like 10-12 minutes, and today I felt like we did that, like 20-25 minutes, something like that. Yeah, and I kind of like having I've been trying to condense these shows, and yet they've still been coming out to about 2 hours. Yeah. But I just like that we can kind of analyze things as deeply as possible. Yeah. Even if it goes off of a couple of tangents to somewhere else. Like, it's, we talked about the coaching vacancies as a whole. And but there's always a point to this tangents, Yeah. So Woodcroft, I hope he does well. And I just really want to see Connor and Leon have some sort of success finally. Right? Absolutely. They absolutely deserve it. Oh, yeah. Underrated players. You got one? I'll let you go first this time. You want me to go first this time? All right. I'm going to bring up someone that we talked about earlier. Robo. Yeah. Jason Robertson. Oh my God, this kid. He just continues to show, I didn't know about Jason until really not this past season, but the year before, when he really actually broke out. And people still aren't giving him enough attention, really, because it's Dallas. Yeah. It's the market he plays in for the most part. Right? Yeah. Because like people look at,
Toronto, obviously, and Nick Robertson's in their system. And I do hope that Nick gets a shot soon, right?
Yes.
Maybe he'll finally get his shot this year.
Maybe they should trade him to death.
Get those two playing together. That would be fun. Oh, wait, think about it. Nick, Jason, and Hintz on a line together. Ooh.
That would be fun.
That would be so much fun. Brotherly chemistry and that kind of thing. But yeah, Robo is a star in the making. And we should really just start paying attention to him more than we do now. I know he gets a lot of media attention, not as much as he should.
Right.
He still doesn't even get enough, even at that point. But yeah, Jason Robertson.
I agree with that. Definitely underrated.
I don't even remember his point totals this year. It's just he looked amazing. You know?
I'm going to give you some stats. And I'm going to ask you who the player is. Okay.
Okay.
I'll give you as many hints as possible. Western Conference player.
Western Conference.
Winger.
Okay.
17 goals, career high. 31 assists, career high. 48 points, career high. Plus 20 in 81 games. Let me give you his expected goals for this season, 77%. Expected goals against, so his defense, 56%.
Western Conference winger.
Primary assists per 60, 87%.
Wow. Western Conference winger.
Breakout season, total breakout season.
Total
5
breakout.
points in 7 playoff games.
5 points in 7 playoff games. So that means they got eliminated in the first round, I'm assuming. I'm going to go out on a limb, Kevin Fiala.
Nope.
No. I don't know if I want to say Jordan Kyrou because they played more.
Nope.
Western Conference wingers. This is like playing Dangle all over again, right? Yeah. It's like I haven't played that thing in a while because it's so I don't know.
I'll give you one more guess and then I'll tell you.
Yeah. Western Conference winger. I literally you trying to think of players when there's over 200 of them and you're like, you know what I mean?
Pacific Division.
Kyler.
Nope.
No? Okay.
17 goals, 31 assists, 48 points, great season, plus 20 in 81 games, Trevor Moore.
Whoa!
Yeah. Trevor Moore had a true breakout season this year.
Trev, buddy.
Really good in the second half of the season for the LA Kings. 2 goals, 3 assists for 5 points in the 7-game series against the Oilers. He is my pick. He is my pick for underrated player.
I thought Trevor was great in Toronto in the role that he was in. He was
really good in the bottom 6 role. I didn't think that he had this kind of skill to his game, but he really broke it out this year.
It's funny
Talking
too
about a trade that worked out for both sides. You know, LA gets a 3rd-round pick and Trevor Moore, and the Maple Leafs get Jack Campbell.
Yeah, which I mean, we'll see what they do with Jack this offseason. I don't know what's going on there. Apparently, it's not great right now.
But even if he walks, I still think it was.
They got good service out of him.
Yeah, they got good service out of him in the same way that LA's getting a lot out of Trevor Moore. They've made some good deals with each other. Good deals that like really are working out for both sides.
The Muzzin deal was awesome.
Yeah, for both.
Looking back now, yeah.
So.
Yeah, Trev's a really good pick. I like that.
Thank you.
He played with. I'm trying to remember. He played with Andrei. He played with.
He's played all over that lineup.
He played with. I feel like he was
He
kind of.
plays well with Phil.
He was kind of stapled to Deneau this year, wasn't he?
I thought he's played well when he's been opposite Grunstrom.
Yeah, those two young guys.
Yeah.
It's funny because like it's all former Leafs right there. You got Grunstrom, you got Trevor Moore, and you got Sean Dursey over there on the back end.
Yeah.
And it's like they're all having
killer Phil Deneau.
The Leaf killer Phil. Yeah. It's like, wow.
It always comes back to the Leafs.
Kind of does in weird ways, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, but yeah, Phil, Trevor Moore, and yeah, really, really solid season out of him, and a really good season out of Jason too, which kind of like, I'm hoping that just becomes expected.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
There's been a sweepstakes for this Russian kid.
Yeah.
Kuzmenko.
Yeah.
And the Canucks got him.
I think it's interesting. Obviously, they got him on a 1-year entry-level deal. I think that this helps in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
So he's interesting in his build. He's 5'11", which isn't huge.
No.
But he's 203.
Oh, that is kind of huge.
He's got a little bit of weight to him.
He's got the weight, okay.
Which is a good thing. He obviously plays wing. He's a right-hand shot. To me, I'm not sure what their long-term plan is with JT Miller, but I think that this makes. I don't think both of them are going to go, but one of Garland or Besser is going to go this offseason.
Yeah.
I have a feeling it's going to be Besser.
I want to see them keep JT Miller because they, JT's been such a star for them, right?
Yeah. I think it's a situation of they love the player, but they do not like the back half of what they're going to have to pay him.
The price tag. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not even so much the price tag as it is the term.
Term too.
Because with him being on the roster, it's not a long-term 7-year deal. You're going to have to give him 8.
Yeah.
That's for a guy who's going to be turning 30 soon.
Yeah. I think it's easier because you mentioned either moving Besser or Garland. I think the move that they will make is probably Besser, which is a shame.
It's a shame how things are going to be ending there.
But if I don't know, because the logical part of me says move Garland.
I think you keep Garland because he's on such a good fucking deal.
He's got a good deal.
You got 4 years left and you're paying him less than 5. Like I there's no chance in hell I'm moving that deal. I mean, I don't even know why he's a part of trade negotiations, to be completely honest.
I think it's just because he's been tied to OEL.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, OEL actually played pretty damn well for the Canucks this past year, but
he did, yeah.
But Garland still kind of, I think he still played better.
He's still kind of coming into his prime, more or less.
Yeah. He's a young guy, got a lot of speed. For a small guy, he's got a little bit of bite to his game if you want.
Oh, yeah. He's fun to watch with that.
Yeah. So
I still remember the
player. He's a part of that core. He needs to be a part of that core.
I still remember the thing with the helmet with Nate.
Yeah.
From a couple years ago in Arizona.
Yeah.
And Garland's one of those guys that will just plow into the net for any goal. Mm-hmm. Like he will crash and burn for any goal.
He's got a good shot, pretty underrated playmaker. Like, yeah, I'd keep Garland. I hate to have to move Besser, but I think that's their best long-term move.
Well, because it's like, do you see any more growth out of Brock Besser in Vancouver? I don't know.
I still see some growth in Brock Besser, but as you said, not in Vancouver. Change of scenery kind of guy in my opinion.
Because he's what, 26? It's like 25, 26.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. And I think the fun thing, I don't know.
Let me tell you, you know what team he screams? Penguins.
Ooh, Besser, Kapanen.
He just feels like a Penguins kind of player.
That'd be fun. That'd be pretty fun. Like Brian Rust, Brock Besser, Kasperi Kapanen as your top 3 right wingers.
Yeah. Well, the question would have to be what you're giving up. They probably have to flip Jason Zucker somewhere else to make that happen or buy him out.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be something that I think that they should consider doing.
Zucker's stomachable to lose if they do that.
Oh, absolutely. I think he's been a pretty big disappointment since he's gone to Pittsburgh. So I think that, you can probably flip him to Arizona.
But Kuzmenko,
But yes, getting back to the player hand, Kuzmenko, very talented guy.
Do you have his stats up anywhere?
Yeah. So here's his last 4 years in the K. 18-19 season, 58 games, 12 goals, 19 assists for 31 points.
Okay.
Next year, 49 games, 14 goals, 19 assists for 33 points. Then 57 games, he had 18 goals and 19 assists. Got consistency, 19 assists every fucking year for the first 3 years with SK St. Petersburg.
Okay.
So 37 points in 57 games. And then this year, just his goals went up every single season from 12 to 14 to 18 to 20 in his last year. And then from 19 to 19 to 19 to 33 assists. So he had 53 points in 45 games in SKA St. Petersburg. And you total all the games up for him in the KHL, because he also had a couple seasons with CSKA Moscow. He played 315 total games in the K, 85 goals, 115 assists for 200 points.
Wow.
So,
okay.
So what is it? Let me do some quick math.
Decent playmaker, and you can put the puck in the net when you need it. 90 points in 38 goals, 90 points in his last 102 games at the K. Wow.
So that's a pretty good player.
Pretty good player.
That's a guy who can play in your middle six like this upcoming season.
It's funny because I'm glad you mentioned middle six. I think one of the reasons why Vancouver ended up getting him was Podkolzin.
Yeah.
They played together. I think they both have, don't they both have Dan Milstein as an agent too? I don't know. I think they at least share an agent.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's Milstein.
Share an agent.
I'm assuming it's Milstein because Milstein has all the Russian clients.
Yeah, maybe he does, but that's a good deal. That's a very smart move for.
I can see him playing with Pods and Bo.
Yeah,
that would fit. Because if you keep Miller, you got Miller and Pettersson in your top six down the middle, and that leaves Bo for your third line. Which, I mean, it's fine.
Yeah, they're interesting on the wing.
They're interesting, yeah.
One of Garland or as we mentioned, Besser will go. Miller might go, but they still got other guys. So they bring in this kid. They've got, as you mentioned, Vasily Podkolzin. They also got Niels Hoglander.
They got Hoglander, and Hogs has looked great.
Yeah. They're interesting. The Canucks are a very interesting team. We haven't talked about them in quite some time, but I'm very excited for Patrick Galvan and this opportunity.
In our Blue Jackets show about the Canucks and Coyotes.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about the Canucks enough recently.
We haven't, but I'm excited. This is a really good opportunity, first off season for Patrick Galvan.
He's got a decent young guy coming in now.
He's a young guy coming in. And and here's the thing. There's a lot of questions for the Canucks moving forward with some of their guys. The other good thing there is about this is they got a lot of options.
Their overall management turnover has been very interesting so far.
Yeah.
Because you have, you lose Travis Green at coach, you lose Jim Benning when everything was total off the rails.
Shit. Yeah.
Total off the rails. You bring in Bruce Boudreau. He's coming back for, another year, and he totally righted the ship.
Yeah.
Totally righted the ship.
And Bruce is, similar to Pete DeBoer and Torts in the sense that very good coaches who
the
are
shelf
really
life
good
is,
when they immediately come in, they're really good at taking a situation that's messy and getting some fucking organization there.
Yeah.
And that's what he did. And that's on top of being, just generally speaking, a good coach.
Oh, yeah.
That's a fit. I think it's going to work. I think the Canucks are going to be a playoff team next year.
I hope. It'd be fun to watch Vancouver back in the playoffs next year.
Yeah.
And then, in terms of the management, Jim out, you bring in Alvin from Pittsburgh, an esteemed organization.
Mm-hmm.
and
but also
Rutherford too.
But also, and Rutherford, that's a good point with his track record, his history, but he's not the GM. He's just gonna be looking over everything.
Right.
You bring in a European GM. That's another element to this.
With a lot of European talent.
And I think that's a really, really cool element to all of this. Because we've seen it work. We've seen it work with Yarmo.
Yeah, Columbus is absolutely in that mix too. Yeah,
they're a prime example of it. And I like what I've seen from this guy, and it's not just from his history in Pittsburgh and his relationship with JR. Some of the hirings that those two have made, they've made some really unique additions to the analytics department, bringing in different perspectives.
Dory, like even just like I don't want to just call out the women personally,
but I think it's definitely worth mentioning. You're bringing in some smart hockey people.
You're bringing in a lot of good just people, and like people like Dory, and I don't know why I'm blanking on her name either, but she's a huge name. That's going to drive me nuts for the rest of the night. This sucks, but she's like she's an assistant to Alvin as well.
Oh, the assistant GM?
Yeah.
Oh, Emily, right?
Emily something.
Emily Castingay?
Castingay was one of them. There was someone else though that
I'm pretty sure Castingay was the assistant GM.
Castingay's the AGM, but then they also brought in like one more woman to the organization. That's a huge hire. Maybe I'm just blanking on that, and then my mind's drifting off to briefly plan joining Montreal, but there was one other that came in to their staff that just was a chef's kiss hire. And I don't know why. I can't think of her name right now. Maybe.
That's it. I'm looking.
Oh, you're looking? Okay. Then I'm going to start talking about the awards then to get us.
Cami Granato.
That's exactly who it is.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh my God.
Did we talk about that one? I think I missed that one.
We talked about Granato just a little bit.
We talked about, I know we talked about Emily.
We talked about Rachel. We talked about Castingay. We didn't talk about Granato as much.
But that's a good one.
But all three of those hires were perfect.
Slam dunks.
Yeah. And they just, the culture of the Canucks organization really changed once Jim and Travis left. I do kind of want to see Travis get an assistant spot somewhere and like maybe one more shot at a head coaching gig.
I'm gonna guess Trevor Screen getting another opportunity. I think he's a fine coach.
Yeah.
A lot of the team's issues in Vancouver, I didn't feel were necessarily coaching his end being bad.
Right.
So yeah, no, I agree with that. If he joins a top end team as an assistant, that wouldn't be a bad thing at all.
No, not at all. Oh my goodness. I'm trying to scroll through the NHL's Instagram to look for nominees for all of these. Just to look for the list of everything. Because what I have in front of me, the NHL Awards are tonight. They're probably going to be over by the time I've posted this.
Yeah.
Because that's just how our timing works.
Yes. So, okay. Vezina, obviously going to be Igor. Hart is going to be Matthews.
Mm-hmm.
What am I missing here? Norris,
Roman Josi.
Even though, yeah, probably going to be Roman Josi.
Ted Lindsay and Calder.
Calder, Sider, Ted Lindsay. I have no fucking clue.
Do you go Connor? Do you go Austin? Because I think they're up for both. Because usually your Ted Lindsay and your Hart match.
Then that's my prediction.
But
there you go. There's the JS John prediction. Yeah.
What's funny is I have the people that are going to be presenting these awards tonight pulled up. And there's some interesting names here. Just from around the broadcasting sphere and around the hockey world, right? Mm-hmm. So obviously we talked about how Keenan's going to host again. And Keenan Thompson is like the perfect host for these awards every year.
Yeah, because he's fucking hilarious.
He's hilarious, and he knows when to roll punches for these jokes, right? He knows how to host. And he knows that because of what this is, it's a sports award show, right? Mm-hmm. He knows it's not like the Oscars or the Grammys where, like, you know what I mean? You can kind of be more chill with these awards, right?
Right.
The Calder is going to be presented by Jake Thibodeau and Elliot Friedman.
Friedge
with the Calder. That's kind of fun, right? I hope he tells a fun story, like a Jeff Merrick.
Friedge is just the best with his tweets. I hope that he like comes up and it's like he does it in his stupid like Twitter acronyms. And it's like,
oh yeah,
the winner of the Hart is Austin Matthews, TML. God. And everybody's like, no, you can't keep getting away with this.
Calgary being CAL always bugs me.
Yeah.
And isn't Columbus
Did you see the tweet he had yesterday about Braden Point?
No.
He was tweeting that Braden Point wasn't participating in warm-ups, and you know what he tweeted? He said, no point in warm-ups. And everybody's like, no, they serve a purpose.
Yeah. That's great. I want to end on the Hart because this one is really nice. The Norris is going to be Chris Snow and his family.
Yeah.
Which I don't know why I don't know Chris Snow.
I don't either. I was hoping that you would say it and I wouldn't have to pretend that I knew. I was just going to be like, yeah, Chris Snow, that's dope.
I don't know why, but I'm thinking Garth Snow.
Yeah, I was going to say any relation to Garth.
I don't know. The Ted Lindsay is Martin LaFleur and David Amber.
Okay.
That'll be a nice, I'm assuming that's Guy's son.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Which is nice, especially after having lost Guy this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
There were a lot of really awful, tragic.
A lot of deaths
a lot of legends this year.
Well, especially with the Islanders.
The Islanders lost 3 guys from their dynasty.
That was crazy.
They lost Gillies, they lost Bossy, and then Potvin, right?
Yeah.
God. Wow. The Vezna's got a couple of fun ones.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas Hodges, the e-bug for the Ducks.
Oh, fun.
And our boy that breaks news from anywhere, Kevin Weeks.
Oh, hell yeah.
Good for Weeksy, eh?
Yeah.
I just want to see him like somewhere completely different.
He's going to be like skydiving out of a helicopter and he's just going to be like breaking news.
It's just going to be like, so I have the nominees for the Vezina right here.
So who's doing the Hart?
The Hart is probably one of the best stories from the past couple of seasons. Brian Red Hamilton and Nadia Popovici.
Okay.
Which I know we're a couple seasons removed from that story.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still just, wow. You know, those two are tied at the hip anymore.
Which was that one?
That was one of the Kraken's first games against the Canucks.
Oh.
And Nadia was there by the glass, and remember, she saw that Red had the mark on his neck.
So
and
I thought when you said years old, I thought like this might happen like 2 years ago or 3 years ago.
No, it happened just like literally
No, that's a cool story. I couldn't remember what the names were, so that
like
makes
a calendar year ago, basically.
Yeah.
Almost, right?
Interesting.
So yeah, Red and Nadia are doing the Hart, which is really nice. We'll see who wins them all. I don't even have the nominees pulled up, which sucks because I want to make my own predictions. But if you have them, please read them off and I'll do it because I know you have yours.
Okay. Let's see here.
As I'm waiting. I wonder what Weeksy's broke right now.
So Norris is Hedman, Yossi, Makar.
Hedman, Yossi, Makar. We've talked about it plenty. I'm still on the train with you for Yossi, but I really want to give just a little bit more credit to Kale.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. Vezina, Markstrom, Saros, Shesterkin.
Vezina, that's Igor's award to lose.
Yeah. Calder, Bunting, Sider, Zegras.
That one, I say Sider wins it, but my heart really wants to say Trevor's going to get it.
Hart is Matthews, McDavid, Shesterkin.
Oh, Matthews, easy.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that Connor has no case, but Austin Matthews put up our first 60-goal season in the league in what, 10 years? And
it's also a little bit of the LeBron James, Michael Jordan syndrome of they've won it so many times.
I know Connor deserves more hearts just because he's Connor McDavid.
Yeah,
it's like it's Wayne's heart argument, right?
Exactly.
Like Wayne should have gotten more hearts just because he's Wayne fucking Gretzky. Connor should get more just because he's Connor McDavid. But at the same time,
people are like, anytime someone has a great season that's like rivaling it, we're going to give it to that person because Connor's going to be here again, you know? And
right.
That's the best mentality to have, but that's just the reality of it. Ted Lindsay is Matthews, Yossi, McDavid.
That one I can see Connor getting.
Masterton. Did that get one?
Is the Masterton...
That was Chara, Hayes, and Price.
Chara, Hayes, and Price. I think Carey got that already. So, okay. Like, there are awards that have been announced that...
Yeah, because the still get... was Kyle Connor.
Yeah.
Jack Adams was Sutter.
Yep.
King Clancy, I'm pretty sure was Subban.
Subban got the Clancy, yes.
So, yeah. Okay. Sorry. So, we covered it. I think this was good. This was a good episode.
Yeah. Fun stuff. Good to see you.
Good to see you, buddy. Now I got to end the show the way I always end it.
You got to go again? Oh, my God.
It's Chipotle for lunch, Doug.
Oh, fair.
And I got
all right. How many games? I'm pretty sure we're still not going to be wrapped up with the cup for our next show, right?
Next game's tomorrow, which is Wednesday.
We'll be 5 games in. So
what's today? Today's
Tuesday.
So tomorrow's Wednesday. Oh, so there's no 2 days off. I thought there would be. So who knows? There's a chance that our next show we might be announcing Colorado won the cup. You never know.
We could, but I don't know. Let's not count Tampa out.
We'll see.
Let's not count Tampa out.
Oh, I'm not. I predicted them to win 7.
Come on.
But who knows? Maybe there's no guarantee that this series is still going to be going when we talk on Saturday. But we'll see.
No guarantees. We'll see where we're at, people. And yeah, please. Okay, I want to just plug us because we haven't plugged in a while. Mm-hmm. JJ Jackets Pod is on Twitter. We're on YouTube. I still got to try to fix the whole thing. Mm-hmm. With getting a better audio host.
Yeah.
To get us back on Spotify, to get us elsewhere.
Yeah.
But follow the Twitter. We update there more or less regularly as we can. JJ Jackets Pod, come and hang out with us and help us grow.
Jake Jackets, a podcast for fifth liners and all puckheads around. Follow the guys on Twitter at Snake Gehringer, GARRINGER, and at By J Ashdown. And subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen. March on.